Welcome to the Power of Lifting podcast. I'm EricCafferty, owner of the Mecca Gym. I am a strength and conditioning coach and a contest prep specialist. The focus of this podcast is to dive into the mindset and the drive of people who have done incredible things with their lives. Oh man, something feels different, Hunter. What's going on? I feel like there's a large blank space right here.
It's right here. We need to figure out how to fill that hole.
An imaginary guest. We're going to put something. We need to put something. We need to edit something in.
We just have it floating here.
Yes. We have a floating. We need like baby Yoda in the corner.
Oh, that's genius.
Or just Mando himself. Even better.
The full guy.
Yeah. No, we should.
Right,
I think what we need to do is get some wood cutouts or some cardboard cutouts for this wall.
I think it's a good idea,
I think
actually.
that would be
some
stupendous.
movie posters and such.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Power of Lifting podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Hunter Dennis, and today we are doing a Season 1 recap. We have now shot and recorded 15 amazing episodes with 14 since I was by myself on numero uno. So we haven't done this one. We haven't done this since episode 1, but since then we've had 14 amazing guests. We've covered, topics from, obviously mindset, the main purpose of this podcast. We've talked about, dietary things, right?
I mean, just a lot of food.
Nutrition, food. Yeah, we've had a lot of food talk with, Maria and Ava. We've had, some more technical diet talk, a little bit on the fasting with Nick. Obviously we put the tinfoil hats on last week with the one and the only Chris Gethin, who was an amazing guest. We've talked medicine with Muscle Doc. We've talked medicine with Dr. Noonan. We talked, motivation with Boone, with Cheryl, with Kaylia, all these great, amazing guests. Man, what's been some of the takeaways for you, buddy?
Jeez, I think I've said this before in a previous episode, but the fact that I have the opportunity to be a co-host on this and maybe be kind of an outside player, kind of maybe the typical listener, has been absolutely incredible. The amount I've learned just from being a part of the podcast, just listening to the podcast, has been insane overall. So I think the idea that we made it possible for people to come in here, share their thoughts, share their wisdom, and grow in that positive mindset for people, I think you knocked it out of the park. I don't know. That's a hard one. Specifically speaking, I think it was super cool to talk with Dr. Noonan about the health side of it, but also the things that doctors don't tell you in the room.
Right.
Where it's like, this stuff is the real stuff you need to pay attention to, the sleep, the eating, the exercise, instead of just subscribing a pill.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of favorite moments from this season, but I think I got more and more excited about this podcast the more of them that we filmed. And I've got a lot of positive feedback on the podcast from people that actually listen to podcasts, which I did a little bit prior to doing this podcast. But, the last thing I want this podcast to be is boring. I want people to be learning. But, a lot of the podcasts out there that are fitness-minded podcasts are – they talk about minutia of one particular study. So something, that we do is, we kind of take some broad strokes in certain areas, but, giving people actual strategies. So real things that they can do on a daily basis, that are strategies that other people use, because I can give people examples of what I do and what some of my clients do. But what about somebody else? What about somebody like Carolyn Olsen, who was our guest on here, who was, an amazing triathlete. Congrats to Carolyn. She just won first place overall woman at her last
Did she really?
event. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Good for her.
Yeah. Freaking stud. So, I think that's super valuable, obviously, for our listeners, to give some of those snippets. But I think, also on this recap episode, we're going to go back through and introduce some clips for you guys to listen to, some of our favorite moments from each individual that we've had on and some of the snippets that they've had. But, I think that we really do keep coming across some repetitive themes on the podcast with, these successful people. And so I just want to highlight a few of those things. So, if you're listening to this podcast for, motivation or information on, how these successful people run and function their lives. But, I can say that, number one, something that we run into is scheduling
and planning. Yeah.
And planning. Yep.
It's been a lot bigger thing. Each individual, I think, has brought up something of that degree in their life. Either becomes morning routine or overall scheduling of planning of the week ahead. It's in there.
Yeah. So, when it comes to your nutritional strategy, plan your week ahead. However you want to prep or go about getting your meals or food, do that. When it comes to having a positive mindset, it takes a plan to have a positive mindset. You know what I mean? A lot of people wake up and have a morning routine that they do in the morning to kind of ground themselves and start their day off right and kind of set the tone for the day, right? Yeah. There's particular amounts of, say sleep that go into it. You got to plan to go to bed on time, things like that. So, you're planning your rest, you're planning your mindset, you're planning your nutrition, and you're planning your training.
And I think everybody should learn to track macros, even if you're not a bodybuilder.
100%.
Because you need to learn what foods contain what you're putting into your body. People mindlessly eat, and when they track that first week of tracking, they may not be trying to reach certain numbers, but they're tracking. And they're like, wow, Maria, I didn't know I was eating 150 grams of fat every day. Like, I thought I was eating, quote, healthy. So they start realizing that. And then when they make those adjustments to macros and start hitting numbers, your body essentially establishes a baseline, right? Where it knows what it's getting to eat the next day. It's like, are we going to starve? We don't know. But now when it's consistently getting X amount of fat, carbs, and protein, it starts to work better for you. Your metabolism starts to run better. You feel better. You're more energized. Your sleep improves.
Things are more predictable.
Yes. And people slowly stop eating just shit food. Like, I'm not going to say rice cakes, but they don't just eat, pizza and then have protein shakes. They start to kind of learn how you can eat other foods to hit macros to help you feel more full and better.
Okay. First of all, you got to have a plan. I think that getting yourself organized and writing down, having a priority list, I think some people call it kind of like a brain dump. Right. However you want to do it, put it down on paper, get over whatever you need to be done.
Right.
When I go to bed, I look at my next day's training schedule, and I know right then and there if it's like I said, if it's a double day that I need to really lock down and get it done, because like I said, I work. I've got other things going on after work. I like to spend time with my husband.
Right. You want to do like casual things. You need to brush your teeth and shower still. I mean, those things take time, right?
Exactly. So prioritizing that first. Yes, you're going to have to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
You cannot make your dreams come true without sacrifice.
100%.
Period. Anything that you want in life, you're going to have to give something up to get it. My lifestyle choice does not give me a lot of opportunity to go out late at night and do these things. My friend circle is super small because I need people that are going to support my dreams.
Right.
So those are sacrifices that I'm willing to make for the long-term goal.
Right.
So first step, putting down what you want on paper. What does that look like daily, weekly, monthly? Then it's just a matter of, number one, and this is something it was like an aha moment for me. You only can give 100% during a day. There is no such thing as 110%. There's no such thing as making it up tomorrow. Right. If EricCafferty gives you a lifting prescription for Tuesdays and Thursdays, and those are your leg days, do leg day on leg day.
Right.
Because you cannot make up what you missed. You just can't. It's not possible. Because if you have a prescribed workout for one day, you cannot effectively do it per the prescription if you have something else attached to it.
Right.
So if you're going to commit to your dreams and your goals, you have to make sure that you do those sacrifices to get that done that day.
Yeah, you know, which is something that we talked about a little bit with Marlon, a little bit with everybody. We always talk like training strategy and things like that, you know. And so, you know, my preferred training strategy is certainly that of either a power lifter or a bodybuilder.
Sure.
Depending upon, you know, the quote unquote season that I'm in. And, you know, that takes some fairly, you know, stringent planning, as far as, you know, particularly calculating loads and how much volume I'm incorporating on a weekly basis. You know, with powerlifting, not tracking your volume is somewhat equatable to not tracking your macros. So, you know, if I were to, you know, look at somebody's training protocol and just have it kind of be, you know, willy-nilly all over the place, like, you're not just going to randomly do more, you know, over time. Yeah, I mean, you can try, but you're going to have weeks where you don't. And then, anyway, it's just impossible to really follow up on. And, you know, the total amount of volume you're able to accumulate is one of the main things that's going to dictate your rate of progression over time. So, you know, that and training intensity, right?
Right. You preach that all the time. And I think that's been more preached per se, just continuing on through these podcasts. And one of the ones I can't remember was very recent, just like training intensity, that's the biggest thing. And you said it flat out, and then we moved on to the next subject, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, to elaborate a little bit on that, I mean, your body is going to respond to certain types of stress and stimulus. That's how you facilitate adaptation, you know, at a cellular level, right? You know, you're breaking muscle down in the gym, you're building muscle with, you know, proper nutrition and recovery and sleep and things like that, right? But the breakdown has to be there. You know, you have to be able to effectively stimulate. And intensity, again and again, in the literature is second to none.
Oh, wow, okay. Is it used that word specifically, intensity?
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah. Like training intensity, or, you know, in certain cases, they'll relate intensity to other things such as reps in reserve or RPE, which is rated perceived exertion, things like that. But yeah, I mean, you really can't replace, intensity, you know, and there's a, you know, lots of people that quote, you know, the quote, intensity is everything. And I'm, you know, I definitely fall under somewhat of that belief system.
Do you?
I would say, yeah.
What does intensity mean? I guess we could start out with working out. Does it mean like you are going to failure every single time? You're stressing your body 7 days a week. Like, what is intensity specifically?
You know, and that's a really good question, I think, because that's one that's asked to me a lot. You know, with in terms of like getting the most out of your training. So intensity, when it comes to resistance training, can mean different things, right? A lot of people think of training intensity as, you know, like your mental state, right? Sure. Kind of being that animal in the gym and just, you know, getting after it, putting your, you know, your alter ego on. You know, we talked to Muscle Doc. He uses the bandana.
The bandana, yeah.
You know, we talked to, you know, Chris Gethin last week. He's, you know, kind of the caged muscle alter ego.
Right.
You know, so it's different for everybody. You know, a lot of people, it's just putting the headphones on, but getting in that proper headspace. And, you know, a lot of people think that that's training intensity. Like, you know, you're just intense,
right? You feel intense,
right?
You
just feel intense. You're jacked up. You're ready to go.
Got
you're
the pre-workout
fired up,
flowing,
right? Yeah, you got the pre-workout flowing, fired up. That's one version of, you know, exercise intensity. The other form of monitoring exercise intensity is, you know, quite a bit more scientific and matter of fact than, you know, your mental intensity is somewhat subjective, whereas training intensity can be measured based off of, you know, heart rate, based off of, you know, reps in reserve or RPE, you know, how closely you are getting to failure. You know, and so that is an argued point in the literature. Like, how close to failure should I be getting on a regular basis?
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas you have the old school bodybuilder, you know, kind of theory that, there's different ones out there, right? You're like the Dorian Yates style, like one set to all out failure.
Yeah.
And then you have like, like FST7, where you're, basically accumulating a ton of volume and trying to incorporate, different techniques to stretch fascia and things like that. So,
well, Gethin was talking about he's very high rep, and I didn't really mean what he meant by that.
More volume-based training.
Stuff,
Yeah,
which was
so
cool.
like
and I
lots
looked
of
at a
reps.
post he did after that explaining the workout he did here at the Mecca. It was like leg extensions, like 50 reps. I didn't know he was going that high, so...
Yeah, so he did like the DTP or whatever, it's like dramatic training principle, I think is what he called it. And it was like, huge pyramid sets and things like that. So anyway, to relate this all back to training intensity, you have to be pushing yourself. That's the bottom line. But there's different ways to push things, and it's kind of somewhat of an art form, figuring out, how much to push yourself and when to push yourself and when's the right time and when's not. And, so it's hard for me to just give that as general advice to somebody, because it does change so dependently on how your recovery is and things like that. But, the great thing is, and we've even started to model, periodized, very structured programming into how somebody feels by using reps in reserve and using RPE, because it used to just be percentages. This is your 1 rep max. Today you trained a percent of your 1 rep max. That was it.
Right.
Well, then we figured out like that's not always for the best, because you're not always as strong on that day as you were on the day that you tested. So those loads are going to be too intense for you to really adequately recover from. So are you trying to spread your volume out, or are you trying to give your all on that one day and then maximally recover from that, right?
Right.
So there's just different methodologies. And what the literature has really shown is that, there's been a few studies that I can recall on like measuring actual structured programming to somebody who kind of freelances. And it really did come down a lot to exercise intensity on those, and who was able to push themselves harder, who was able to accumulate more volume using whatever particular methodology they're going with. So I think the bottom line is with that, I mean, you have to be pushing yourself in the gym, whether it be with trying to do more volume, trying to lift more weight.
It's always a progression of up.
It's always a progression of up, and that's the big thing. And I think, there are limits to, how intense you can get. And certainly there are days where you're going to be more intense than others. But, I certainly suggest getting in the right headspace and putting on the mask, putting on, whatever it is that turns you into, the gym version of you, and, in getting after it. And that applies to, not just the gym, but the cardio outdoors as well. So maybe
100%.
it's a bike or a run or a swim or something like that. Getting in the right headspace, listening to a certain type of music, follow a process. It's the same thing. You have to mentally prepare yourself for certain tasks. It's very difficult for somebody if you just have a random change in schedule, like I have many times, and it's like, well, now I have to work out right now instead of later or whatever. It's like those workouts are incredibly hard to pursue. It's like you're always chasing a moving target during that workout because you hadn't planned on it. Even if you're, it has nothing to do with food necessarily or anything else, but it's just, the headspace is, it's different.
Well, I mean, and the definition of intensity varies. Like, because when talking to somebody like getting into like a bodybuilding space or anything else like that, or strongman, powerlifting, intensity is not just load. Intensity also has to do with what is the intensity of a rate of contraction or rate of perceived contraction of my actual muscle, specifically for hypertrophy. But then the other thing is that intensity is how heavy am I going on my accessories? How intense am I able to go while maintaining correct form? All these other kind of things that go in there. So there's a lot of experimentation that is required for anybody to actually find that optimization of the actual training, which is what I'm always obsessed with. is that how can I make somebody better, and what is it going to take for that individual to get there? So I do like the differences of the training modality for sure.
There was a part where the Titan Games is hard for me because you became such great teammates with everyone, and I'm someone who has dedicated my life to building people up and achieving your greatness and doing the best you can do, and I love being on a team. And so we got to be in this team with a bunch of really amazing individuals, and then I had to go out and compete with them, and that was hard for me.
And against them.
Right. Yeah. And I knew that there was a certain point where I was wavering a little bit. It was the one where I was going against Matt Chan and Steven Shelby, and both those guys I had a ton of respect for. And I knew that it was like, if I didn't beat both of them, that I was going to go home. And I remember pacing back and forth, and Whitney and my kids were in the back, and I needed to put the bandana on. I needed to go into Doc Thor mode, like where I was like pissed off, angry, fight, stomp on your throat kind of feeling. But it's your best friend almost at the same time. And I remember grabbing, like Whitney grabs me by the face, and she's like, "It's okay." She's like, it was almost like she was saying, "It's okay. I'm going to give you permission to be the meanest sumbitch out there." She's like, "It's okay." She's like, "Find that dark place," and she's like, "And go there." Because I think all of us have that in us. We have two wolves, right? And whichever wolf you choose to feed is the one that's going to thrive. And so I think all of us have that Dracula in us that's powerful and dangerous, that you don't want to feed the wrong version of that guy, right? But some points it's really important to let that out.
It's really helpful on occasion.
On occasion, sure. Yeah. And so she was almost like telling me that it's okay, it's not personal. Like, they'll still be your friends, they'll still respect you afterwards. And she was like, go out there and leave no doubt. Like, go bury them,
Yeah.
And like I instantly felt like this surge of energy. And I just, like, tunnel vision. And then when they called us out there, it was the one where we were flipping open a lid, grabbed a hammer, and then hit these pipes that knocked a pole down. Man, I was just swinging so hard. And every time I hit that pipe, it was like I felt like I had more to give. And I was hitting harder and harder and harder. And then before I know it, I'm looking around that I'm in the lead. And I jumped up to skinny up to the top of that pole. And I was just like, man, when I finished, I was like, I knew that I'd given it all. And the only reason I could have done that was because Whitney was like, unleash that beast and go to work, and it was a really cool experience to have with your best friend, with your spouse, your wife,
Right. Well, when you said planning, one of those things, we'll go back to kind of the big things that we've hit, but planning was one. You also said plan your mindset, which is interesting. I don't think people think about that. It's like, oh, I plan my day and then I go and do those things. But yeah, what's your headspace going to be like when you get there? Because the thing, you think about it, if you're getting up, you got to get up early to go work out, or you got to get up early to go to work even, like, your mindset needs to start the night before. That's a very limited factor of planning, but at the same time, it is planning ahead. I need to be awake. So, I don't know, you set your alarm to a certain song, or you got your phone giving you a message or something in the morning where you're just like, okay, my intensity, bring in that intensity, not just to your workout, but every aspect of your life.
Yeah, and I would say it's, in those instances, it's less about, intensity per se and more about, efficiency to some degree, but also, I would caution people to just live in the moment, in each moment,
I like it.
Even during the struggling portions of the day, because the fact of the matter is, you blink and time has gone by, right?
That's true.
I mean, and the busier somebody gets, the more they learn to value time. And so, you really don't want to be rushed. The busier you are, the less, I feel like the less you like being rushed, and the less you tend to want to rush things, because you want to be present, because it's really easy in your life when you're busy to not be present in the tasks that you're doing. And, that can be harmful to your relationships. Right. It can be harmful to your mental state. And the other thing too is, if you find yourself going through things in your day that you're just like, man, I want this to hurry up and get over, like, why are you doing it? We just talked to Dr. Noonan a few episodes ago, and he talked about trimming things out that were unnecessary. And so this has to do with that big time.
Right.
You know, if you find that you are rushing yourself through things in your day because it's just not something that you look forward to, you need to really reevaluate that situation.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
Like, why are you doing that particular task? You know, what is that task going to do for you? Is this something that you can delegate out? Like, you know, what do you need to change in order to change your mental state about that task, right? You know, for me, a lot of the things that I dislike doing is like going through like numbers and sales and bank accounts and all that crap, and like
I think very few people do
bookkeeping and expenses and all that stuff and taxes, and it's just like, dude, it's just a lot.
Right,
you know
but it's
what
also
I mean?
a necessity for
like
owner,
if you don't do that, like even on a personal level, if you don't have your finances in check, like, I mean, you're gonna be a very anxiety-ridden person. Let's just put it that way, right? So, you know, definitely something that has to be dealt with, and a lot of people don't like to deal with it. I mean, and like, you know, it's not like I'm running in a deficit. You know what I mean? So it's not like it's not like I'm in debt necessarily or anything like that I don't like it. I just that's not, you know, where my personality is gravitates towards, you know. And it's kind of the same thing with me. I'll relate that more to the working out side of things. Like, I don't really love, like, for myself, like looking at a workout while I'm lifting. You know what I mean? I kind of like to freelance it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't like to, because I feel like I just get in a groove, and I kind of just like to move and do what my body feels like, you know? Now, granted, there's times where I do not allow myself to do that, but there's a lot of times, especially like if it's a not planned training day, or if I'm traveling or something like that, where I kind of just go with the flow, and I do really enjoy it. I think it has a time and a place. But yeah, getting back to, you know, really spending time on and not having a negative connotation with those things that you don't like to do. You know, find and take steps to build a better relationship doing those things, whatever that may be, you know?
I like that. Yeah, that's fair. Totally not an intensity thing, but a revaluation kind of thing. Doing that,
exactly.
Which we preach a lot.
When we graduated, we had to do a 5-year plan. And I did write I wanted to open a business in 5 years. But I would say what kind of originally, since I had that whole baking background, I wanted to do wedding cakes for my business and my career. But my sophomore year in college, I had foot surgery. I had 2 bunions, and it was super painful running. So I run all the time, and, you know, 6 miles a day, running. And it would just be so painful when I would go to sleep at night. And so I decided to have bunion surgery, and that was a big wake-up call for me, because I was like, I can't run anymore, and I can't keep eating like I do, so, and I can't, what am I going to do now? So I had surgery, put joints in my right foot, or joint fusion in my right foot. They put screws in, so I had to cut way back on the running. So I would just go to the gym, and I would start lifting, and then I started to focus more on eating, and I was like, you know what? I'm more passionate about fitness than I am more like wedding cakes. So that's when the maybe I should meal prep idea came in. And I was meal prepping for myself at the time in college. Like, I would go to the culinary labs. We would make almond croissants and like ham and Swiss croissants, and here I was eating like frozen broccoli and chicken in the middle of winter in my car between classes, and people are like, you're weird, you're not taking croissants home. I'm like, no guys, there's chicken and broccoli for me today.
You got to work at it every single day. You have to be aware of it, acknowledge it, be present, and work at it every single day. It's like it's funny people say things like that, because, you know, like I'm generally not a happy person, you know. I have to work at getting that baseline every single day. So if I don't work at that baseline on making sure that I, you know, have cold therapy in the morning, maybe an ice bath, go out and do my cardio in the mountains like I did this morning, Making sure that I get plenty of sunlight, get vitamin D, because it's very important that I get the vitamin D. I don't absorb it that well. To make me feel baseline, not happy, but not being depressed.
Right.
So I work at that the same way as I work at my physique. The
Right.
same way. It's just being conscious that when I come into the gym, it's not the quality, it's not the quantity. It doesn't matter if I'm here 2-3 hours. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
It's the quality of the time,
Right.
and I got to think my way through it,
Yeah.
because otherwise I get very distracted. And not think too much, because I do always say, if I think too much, it makes me think too much.
Yes.
So I just try to focus on the good things and not let the monkey mind distract me into the bad things.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Okay, so kind of going back to the main things we've learned. So planning was one. That was really awesome. I think I could argue the fact that you can't really succeed to your full potential alone by yourself.
Right.
Team behind you when it comes to like business or family life or really anything in your life. You want to succeed, you need help.
Yes.
And that, can be like, the biggest deal that we talked about, hit it really hard with Marlon, with Laura, with Kalia, Cheryl as well. The fact that you have a trainer in your life on the fitness side of it, but then also that they can help another aspect of your life, nutrition and just overall energy and health. But what are your thoughts about that and receiving help? Because I think a lot of people don't like to take it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people need to open up their minds to, constructive criticism and the fact that you don't know everything, and a lot of people in our circle are very privy to that. You know what I mean? We're people that are from an educational background where, the scientific process is very prevalent, right? You never know everything, and anything that you do know could change.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Right.
So you have to be, open to change your theories and ideologies based off of, evidence-based research, essentially, right?
Not just opinion.
Not just opinion.
Right.
But, and then something we talked about with Gethin a little bit is, also, not only the evidence-based, but also the experience-based and the anecdotal evidence, right? Finding things that work well for you. So taking that research and running with them and then finding things that work well for you. Well, if you're not an expert in a particular field, that can be very, very challenging to do because you don't know how to take that information and run with it. So you need a guide, right?
Right.
It's like if you don't know how to invest, right? If you don't know how to invest, well, you need to talk to somebody who invests or who teaches people how to invest. Well, if you want to do a bodybuilding show, you need to talk to somebody who is an expert in coaching people to do bodybuilding
and
shows.
has done so.
And has competed themselves, right? They don't need to be actively competing per se, but
They know what it takes.
I feel like it's important for that individual to have done that task.
Sure.
So, kind of like, when we were talking with Carolyn, I'm not going to do her programming for her elite level triathlon training. Now, if she came to me for a more off-season style approach, like she did, absolutely. I definitely handled a lot of cross training for her, and I'm able to weave that into the endurance-based training that she's doing perfectly. It's fine. But yeah, you've got to have that person who is an expert in that craft, calling the shots, so to speak, because they've, had the experience, they have the knowledge, the information, the educational background, in order to take you to where you want to go. And it's the same thing with health, and I think that's one of the biggest problems with society. And we've talked about this a little bit with several guests, but, the fact that people look at doctors as the authority on health, when in fact they're not.
Right.
They are the authority on medicine, right? But guess who's one of the ones giving doctors health advice?
There
This
you go.
guy, right?
Right.
Yeah. Guess who's the one teaching a lot of these doctors how to lift? I do, right? And that's not putting me above them at all.
No, it's a partnership.
It is a synergistic relationship.
There it is, yep.
They know way more than I do about, how to treat, anything medical, right? You talk about, say medicine, you talk about, how to treat injuries. You talk about, with Dr. Noonan and the atrial fibrillations he deals with, or the ablations, or, all of the things, right? These specialties. I train a lot of eye docs. They're doing, microsurgery on eyes. Like, it's crazy.
That's insane.
It's so cool. I've watched them do it. It's just,
have you really?
Oh yeah. It's just nuts.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like, you kidding me? Like,
No.
these guys went to school for years and years and years. They did internships, fellowships, residency, then fellowship, then, like all of this training, right? They were in school until they were like 35, right? To do this job.
Right. It's pretty insane.
Yeah. So mad respect to everybody in the medical community, but, we train a lot of nurses, we train a lot of doctors, we train a lot of, NPs, PAs, all that stuff, because here's the thing, they have enough knowledge to understand how important their health is. Right. And they are experts in their own right in a certain area, but we are also experts in our own right in a certain area. And our area is body composition and general health and fitness, right? Being able to move your body better, being able to feel as good as possible. Whereas people on the medical side of the ball, they're good at getting people back to normal. We are good at getting people from normal to exceptional, right? So that's the difference. And that's why more people need to be seeing people like me and my team, is so that they create a partnership in order to get their health from okay, or maybe not so good even, and take it to exceptional, because that's going to enhance your life for reasons X, Y, and Z, right?
For the long term.
For the long term. And I could go on, for days about, the benefits of what that means to have, physical and mental health. But,
that's pretty good.
So that aha moment in form correction or learning movement patterns is amazing, right? That click, like, oh, I felt that, or wow, how to engage that. But honestly, and this also plays into Eric's second answer, we must be a lot alike, but it's getting to know you, right? I truly enjoy getting to know you and making your unique plan.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're a mom who's breastfeeding, right, you're about to rip your hair out, you don't have time to do stuff, I want to help you. And whether that's, like Eric said, take 3 10-minute walks a day, I will be there with you. Or if you're a competitor and it's your first show and I get to be backstage with you, I really like when we can make that change in someone's life, because it's always going to be different. And you'll see that here in the Mecca. When you come in, everyone has a different goal. There's so many different kinds of people. When I first moved to Idaho, I looked up gyms right away, and I was like, oh, Mecca Gym. Like, it's just for big people. Like, I could probably go there, but I don't know if I want to go there. And then I came in, and you hear this all the time. I came in, and I realized the Mecca is so much more. And there are people here for weight loss. There are people here with musculoskeletal impairments. There are people here that want to master powerlifting, do competition. And it's so amazing, everyone's journey. And everyone is your cheerleader, and they're all on your team. Yeah. All on your team.
Definitely.
Right.
They are hyping you up on Instagram. They see you in here, and you all of a sudden it gets quiet, and you're like, oh, someone's maxing out. Like, someone's about to do something pretty cool.
And then it gets really loud.
And then it gets really loud, and I have chills right now thinking about it, but it just makes you feel so welcome and so empowered. So being part of that journey, like Eric said, seeing that and being involved in that is huge, because that is one of the most motivating things. A lot of times, I work at the clinic 10, 12 hours, and then I'll come here and train a client, and I don't really want to work out afterwards.
Yeah, that's fair.
But working with that client, they're here, they got off work, they came, that is my motivation too. So maybe that's a little selfish, I don't know, but I get motivated from you guys, so I really enjoy that too. It's just being part of the journey.
I love it.
It takes a team.
It takes a team, yeah. Exactly. Going back to that initial point, it takes a team. And everyone comes with their strengths and their weaknesses to help build the team up. I love that.
Yep. And that's why it's, really, really valuable to us to have the great staff that we do. And everybody is a little bit different and brings something a little bit different to the table. Our team is incredibly diverse. Everybody has their passions that are somewhat different. Everybody has their expertise that's somewhat different. Everybody studies a little bit differently, so they, they're experts in different little, subtopics, and they have, you know, different teaching and coaching methodology. You know, it's just, it's awesome.
It is awesome. And then going back to the, excuse me, having a trainer that's somebody, that guide for you that can help long term as you build a relationship with these people. Where a doctor, you go into the office, you maybe get something and you move on because that's just the nature of it. They just have to do that. But you guys having to be able to be there through their life, and you guys have talked about this before, getting far more involved in their life sometimes than you wish you were.
Right.
but you are, and you're there to build that, and they gain trust, and then they just see, and then as soon as they see those successes or the changes in their body or their health, just get addicted to it and continue to move.
Yeah. You know, and I think that's definitely, you know, the best part of the job, partially. You know, I know we talked about this a lot on Laura's episode, but just seeing people succeed and accomplish their goals. I just had a client today send me a picture of herself at her first competition this year and at her second competition this year.
Yeah.
Her first competition, not a great experience for her. She didn't do as well as she wanted to, like, you know, and it was a rough 3 weeks between shows for her.
Yeah.
It was a struggle, but she came out of it. She took first places this weekend. She did really super great. I'm not going to name names still, but some people know who this person is. But she sent me the picture from this weekend next to the picture from the previous show she did. Dude, night and day, you know.
That's amazing.
And the thing is, her body weight was like maybe a pound difference.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And, you know, it's just one of those things where it comes to, you know, having a coach that, you know, is reassuring you, giving you, you know, the information that you need to hear, like, be patient, you know, please,
trust the process.
I mean, yeah. And, you know, you want to question the process and get some answers for yourself.
Actually, that's fair.
But at the same time, you know, if you have a coach that you know and you trust and you believe in, you've got to believe in what they're telling you and buy into that and put all your eggs in that basket, because there's no other basket to put your, you know what I mean?
Right.
And
I like
so, you know, seeing the follow through with that and having her see, wow, that was like the hardest 3 weeks of my life, basically, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And have it pay off with, you know, tiaras and trophies and all that stuff, and like rewards for that. You know, I always say that, you know, the hardest things are the ones worth doing, right?
I really like that.
You know, because those are the ones with, you know, the most, you know, reward at the end of them, right? So, you know, that you really suffer and challenge yourself through something, and then you get rewarded for it at, you know, at the end of that. Like, I mean, you can ride that high for days.
That'll take you for a while.
That's addicting, right?
Yeah, that's what gets you.
That's what gets you.
And it's amazing. Well, even to go along with that, I was going to think about another point we talked about a lot. And some people, this applies to more than others when we're talking about Micah or Boone or Cheryl with her cancer. Micah and Boone, for those who haven't listened to the episodes yet, are in wheelchairs. Their ability to push through adversity. And I think we've got it from everybody in this podcast. We talked about it. We were able to kind of draw their answers out, but what it means to be driven, not just the motivation bullshit. It's the being able to drive through that suffering to reach that reward.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, we do talk a lot about how, you know, we don't like to throw around the term motivation a whole lot, because that comes and goes. But, you know, particularly on the Boone and the Micah episodes of this podcast, you know, those are situations that you don't have a choice, you know.
Fair.
They didn't have a choice, right? They didn't choose for that to happen either. But it comes to, you know, the matter of fact that we all get put in situations. And we all have choices to make in those situations, you know. There's not very many things in, you know, this country that we live in that the choice is literally made up for you. Right? You can choose, you know. And I don't want to get like deeply political or anything like that, but, you know, you're the one that's responsible for all of your actions and your choices. Amen. So, you know, you better make good ones, or, there could, in some cases, be consequences, right?
Could be severe.
I mean, yeah, it could be severe. I mean, we're talking like life or death situations in some cases, right?
Sure.
For most of us, no. But, even still, we gotta understand that, our future is directly derived from the choices that we make in each moment, right? And I think with those guys in particular, we see that they were able to make extraordinary outcomes and continue to make an extraordinary outcome of a situation that they really didn't have a choice for.
Right.
It's like the stuff I've learned from this is really cool because it's just, pulling myself out of that ditch, this is what it was. I was just tired of being miserable. I knew every day I was just wasting away, just like being miserable.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about it is I learned that, and this is for anybody, like it's super easy. It's like, control what you can control, and the rest
Exactly.
is, and it's just literally as easy as waking up and just saying, today's going to be a good day.
Right.
Just the mind, your mind, I've learned, is just so powerful. And it can be powerful in a positive or a negative way.
Yeah.
So whatever
for
you're
sure.
feeding your thoughts, whatever you're feeding your mind, is exactly how your day's going to be. Exactly. And so it's just a matter of, that's what pulled me out of it. There's no magic recipe. There's no, do this for 5 days and you're going to be happy. It's just, you have to wake up every day and say, focus on the positive, focus on the things that went well, focus on the things that are going to bring you joy. It's just
awesome.
It's just your mindset is just so important.
For me, a hard thing was that the first was realizing virtually no one goes through the same situation and these trauma things the same way.
Right.
And I found that a lot of stuff that I wanted to do, that I've done, just people hadn't done them before. And so that kind of, to me, is, all right, well, then I'm going to be the first person to do it. Let's do this.
Yeah.
It seems physically possible. Just because someone hasn't done it, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so for me, with no one kind of to look at, because I looked, I thought, okay, well, what does everyone else like me have?
Right.
What have they done?
What do they do? Yeah.
And there are other people like me, but the answers were fairly disappointing.
Yeah.
And for me, that's just no. Okay, we're going to make this work.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think I had to get over the point where it's okay to be the first. It's okay to fail. Just try it and let's see where it goes.
You're not afraid of fear,
No, fear's something you have to tell you that there's a risk.
Right.
That's what it's telling you. If you're scared of something, it's telling you that there's probably something really risky going on there.
Right.
Okay, well, do your best to mitigate it and keep going.
Yep. Exactly.
That's all you can really do. It's, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
okay to be scared.
Yeah.
It's not okay to let it hold you back from stuff.
Yeah.
It's not okay to let it hold you back from doing things you want to in life.
Yeah.
I think that's where the
absolutely.
difference is people think, well, I'm scared, then it's okay to let it stop me. But it's just a warning.
Yeah.
It's just telling you to be cautious.
Yeah.
But I was also blown away. I was like, what? I don't get a cold. I don't have cancer.
Yeah.
And it was a great workout, that first workout, because I was really mad. And I didn't get to tell husband Eric until 11 p.m.
Oh,
so I got
my
to keep
goodness,
that to
really?
myself all day. I didn't want to tell him over the phone.
Right.
And I called my father-in-law. He's an oncologist. Filled him in, and he's like, okay, tell him exactly what they said. And I had a little corner of a piece of paper, and he's like, okay. So anyway, then scheduled the lumpectomy for just before Orange Theory opened. Like, we had 3 days where we shut down and got ready. And told trainer Eric, and I had just done my best show. I got my first place in November.
Wow. Okay.
And then this happened November, but I really found out in January. And I said, so I don't know if I can continue training. And he was sort of like, I'm like, unless you think we could try.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of figured, why not? Why not? I was planning on doing a show in June.
Yeah.
And why not continue and give me something to focus on instead of poor me? And it wasn't bad. He acted like it was COVID. He sprayed everything down before I touched it. Do you remember that? He had a spray bottle for everything. Kept it really clean.
Very good, yeah.
And
that's great.
And I think I trained with him 3 times a week, and
Yeah.
sometimes it was the mornings that I worked, and I would drive over here and take a quick nap in my car, and then I'd train with him, and then I'd go home and take another nap, and then I'd do whatever. But
Yeah. It was kind of a crazy.
It was.
experience.
And it was through chemo, radiation, lost my hair.
That's incredible. When you first found out, though, because we all know Cheryl, high energy, super fun, but obviously people who are like that, they usually tend to have bad experiences in their life where they know the difference between feeling really good and feeling really bad. But when you first heard that and you're riding high, you got a first place finish, you're about to go into another round of shows, about to start an amazing new job. Did you have that moment of it's all over?
No.
That's awesome.
But other people did.
Oh,
like
okay.
our head trainer at the time, he wasn't going to put me on the schedule, and I had been in pre-sales. I said, "Oh no, I've got my schedule. Tuesday, Thursday mornings. Those are mine. If I can't do it, then we'll reevaluate."
Right.
And I scheduled my first chemo appointment for Thursday after work. So I had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to recuperate, feel better,
Right.
and I didn't tell him. And then after, when I taught the next Tuesday, I'm like, "Oh, by the way, I already had chemo. I'm fine."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that, something that I took away from that is that, excuse me, when you're confronted with a decision and you have a choice to make, that is a gift, right? And, a lot of times you will see benefit from choosing the harder choice, right? You talk about, the old poem that everybody read, Robert Frost, The Road Less Taken.
The Road Less Taken,
The
less
Road
traveled by.
Or the Road Less Traveled, or it's The Road Less Taken.
Road Less Taken is what it is.
I think it is, yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, making the tough choices, but again, it's a choice, Right. So just seeing people like that who were dealt hard cards and they freaking wrote them, baby. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just that's incredibly inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
So then you look at a lot of the decisions that we make on a daily basis and we're like, man, this is really small potatoes to, I'm not having to relearn how to walk. I'm not having to learn how to take care of a mini farm like Micah without, being able to walk.
Yeah.
And, it's just incredible, inspiring people, that we're incredibly honored to share this room with. And they have things to teach us, and that's why we're here. You know what I mean? So yeah, extremely valuable. But I think, in general, a lot of people just tend to be really, really complacent about a lot of different things when, in the end, you have the control, Same thing like with COVID. I mean, that was something that was, incredibly frustrating to a lot of people, myself included. But, here's the thing. We still had choices, we could sit here and we could, piss and moan and complain about how the government's not letting us do this or this or this, or we could say, okay, fine, we're going to pivot. We're going to do other stuff.
Yes,
right.
Right.
So, consequently, I got my act together and, we started this podcast. Mm-hmm. We started the Lifting Academy. We started, all of these different things. We completely redesigned and relaunched a website, we made plans, right?
And the plans are still to be coming and released, and growth is just expanding.
Yeah, and so it's like, what? So you just, what's the alternative? You're just gonna roll over and die when you're presented with a hard choice? No, you're gonna figure out. You're gonna make a way, and if you're not, then you're just going to be beat out by somebody who's a lot more passionate about what they're doing than you are. You know what I mean? And if there's one thing that I will, always want to be is passionate about what I am doing. And because if I lose that, I don't think that I want to be doing it. You know what I mean?
Well, sure.
Because that's what leads to the drive. I think a lot of it is that, deeply rooted passion. And, I think a lot of, speaking for myself, a lot of that comes from, my desire to help other people have success, especially with, transforming their body and gaining control of their health and things like that. I think that's, that's definitely one of the things I'm all about. So
the passion's there. And then, that was a big, bold statement there where it's the ability to have a choice is a privilege.
Yes.
And so take that as an honor and take that as a, and I think too, people kind of shirk at the fact that like, oh, these hard opportunities have come my way, when in fact, maybe those hard opportunities are coming your way because you need them to get better.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You take them and you run with them.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's almost a privilege.
Oh, for sure.
If not a privilege.
Oh, yeah. And we talk about that all the time, how pressure is a privilege.
Pressure,
that's one of my favorite quotes. Yeah. Right. And it just comes down to, you face these hard decisions and you make them, and it should be, you should consider it a privilege to, have the choice of doing these hard things, right? Because those are the ones that are really, really worth doing. And I think that our guests have exemplified that on a lot of different levels. They've all done a lot of very difficult things, and, to segue from that, a good conversation I had with Chris, somewhat off camera, is we were talking about what he said on a different podcast, talking about, people in third world countries.
Okay.
And, he being a very well-traveled individual, seeing, how these people live in the poorer places of the world, and they don't have a choice of how they get to eat. You know what I mean? They literally, they may get to eat on a day, they may not. They don't get to choose necessarily. They eat what comes available, because that's all they've got, right? And so, then you look at people that, complain about their quote unquote diet for a bodybuilding show that is something that they choose to do, that they're trying to manipulate their body, and yet they are psychologically just 3 sheets to the wind and completely, hosed from, lack of eating a cookie from time to time. And you're like, man, that's some backward stuff right there.
Right.
So, it
just get
really
caught in the comfort.
Yeah, I think it really just, a lot of these things come down to your perspective. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about set the mental tone for the day, right? It's put yourself, in through the right lens, right? Look at yourself through the right lens.
Yeah. I just don't let myself. Like, I guess you just have to accept, like, you are, whether you're in prep, cutting and hungry, or you're in improvement season gaining weight, because those seem to be like the two struggles that people have. It's just, you just have to, if this is what you want to do, like then you just have to acknowledge and accept that this is what it takes. And I mentioned earlier, I like doing things that are hard. And so it's just, I use that, like, if, obviously you have hungry days, and but what do you do? Do you complain? Like, do you complain about it, or do you figure out a way to manage that? And like, for example, I don't complain. I just like, okay, I need to be active. Like, let's get busy. Like, let's clean my house. Like, what's going to take up 2 hours of my day so I don't think about food? You just find ways to, you got to find ways to work around it. And any amount of complaining and whining and that you do is just, it's not helping your situation, I guess, is how I think about it. And so what is going to help my situation? Well, keep me busy, keep my mind occupied. Go do stuff with my husband, my dogs, go friends, like read, like I
really loved it. I got really into it. Really just, it was something to take on and a new goals I could set, and it's not easy, and I like things that challenge me.
That's awesome.
I'm always reading. Not always. That's an exaggeration. But I read a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm big into data. I'm an electrophysiologist. So
yeah.
I'm a
naturally
dork, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at data a lot, and I'm looking at just how I can tweak the day. So it's nothing big or grandiose. It's how did I handle that situation? Could I have handled that better?
Self-reflection.
Exactly. It's reflection, right?
Yeah.
And it permeates every aspect of my day. Some days more than others, but I'm always thinking about why did I do bad? What could I have done better? And I try to not defend what I did.
Right.
Because I find that when I start defending internally something I've done, then I'm making an excuse.
Right.
And we need to be more powerful than our excuses. Just be stronger than your excuse. Just call it what it is. I messed up today.
Yeah.
Move on. Like, don't berate yourself. Just move on. Everyone's going to show me one perfect person ever in the history of human beings.
Right.
You can't do it. So like, why be down on yourself? Just like say, hey, that's cool. I'll do better next time.
I think one of the big things is staying humble no matter what, but being confident. And I think confidence is one of those things in our society that people get like really weird about. Same thing, and it kind of has to do with jealousy a little bit,
and insecurity,
right? But having conversations with some friends of mine who are extremely successful, who have like, say, some nice vehicles or like nice things, some luxury things, we'll call them, and they like don't want to drive their car to their office because they don't want their friends or their employees to see them drive this car, or they don't want to wear a particular watch that they own around, or they don't post cars or their house on social media or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid that people will have a certain opinion about it. And it's like, why do you care? You know what I mean? Like, to those people, and these are extremely successful people. I would argue more successful than I am. But, especially from a financial standpoint, I can guarantee you that. But, I would say, why buy it then?
Right.
Why buy it? Like, don't, if you're afraid of what people will think. And to those people that are like, that rich asshole, like, screw that dude, man. Like, if you worked hard enough to, even if you got it from your daddy, like, whatever, the money or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, who cares? Who cares? Are you hurting other people? Right? No. So, like, I mean, if anything, I'm just enjoying looking at your nice car. So who am I to say screw you for just having nice stuff? Like, why do people care?
It is a very interesting part of our society.
That envy and that jealousy towards successful people. I think the people that are like that need a serious reality check. And if you find yourself being like, man, F that guy for all of his money, or it must be nice. Like, I hear that all the time. Like,
nice.
Must be nice. Probably, huh? I don't know if people say that about me, like, whatever. I would laugh at that, honestly. Must be nice. Oh, yeah, must be nice. You work 1,000 hours a week. And it's like, yeah, it must be nice. I get to positively impact a lot of people. You're right. It's awesome.
It's great.
I am so glad that I get to work that much. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Must be nice. But, yeah, those people, I think, actually, who made a post about this was Rob Bailey at one point in time, Dana Lynn Bailey's husband. Because somebody said, must be nice, like, about like one of his vehicles or something like that, because he has some cool vehicles. And anyway, but I know he made a long post about this, and I am totally going on a tangent, but
no, you're good.
To those people who are along those lines of thinking, that's on them. I really don't understand, like, the jealousy and the envy towards people that have had success. Like, even if they didn't work hard for their success, like,
still,
like, why do you just not like somebody, or why would you not buy something from somebody just because, they already have enough money? Like, no, if they have a product you like, just buy it. Like, whatever, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. I mean, unless you, like, disagree with something they do, like, on a philosophical or political level, like, sure.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to support that person because they believe in other things than you believe. Sure. Okay. Get it. Got it. Good. But just to not like somebody for being successful or for having money or for whatever your perception of them is, I think that's a really big trigger for you to look inwardly at yourself. Yeah. And on the flip side of that, these people that are successful, or people that are heading towards that success, I feel like they're almost confidence is almost starting to be looked down upon in our society.
It is.
Like, people mistake confidence for cockiness and douchebaggery all the time.
It's true.
And it's like, there is a huge difference. There is a hard line in the sand between somebody who is confident and genuine and then somebody who's just kind of a cocky, chauvinistic kind of douchebaggery type of guy. And like, there are some people, I will admit, that I follow on social media that I feel like blend that line purposefully in order to gain a following and be a little bit more polarizing, which is somewhat frustrating, but hey, that's marketing in a nutshell.
What are you gonna do?
Right? What are you going to do? Yeah. But anyway, I think that confidence is something in our society that is hugely lacking. We need to work a lot on. And I will say that, a lot of our guests that we've had on here, they've had to be confident.
Yeah.
The doctors we've had on, they've had to be confident, right? Doctors have to know how to be confident. They're trained in that, right? Right. The athletes, the Kayleas of the world, got to be confident to have that presentation, that presence on stage, right?
I think it's incredibly ironic, I think, when you think about it personally, like that person who's like, oh, that person, screw them for their success. I don't know anything about them, screw them. But on the flip side, if you come to that person for their specialty, you want to make sure they're as confident as hell. Because,
for sure.
Because so it's just like, do you want them to be confident or do you not want them to be confident?
Yeah.
You want to be confident and just like, I want confidence that you can give me a meal plan that'll help me succeed.
Oh, totally.
Give me a workout that'll help me succeed.
From a coaching
we'll
perspective.
Open up my
absolutely.
chest, fix my heart,
right,
and put it back together, and I live longer.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
you want that confidence in a person.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Fantastic.
I grew up, probably when I was 14 years old, that's about the time I was really into basketball. And the reason I started lifting at all was to improve for basketball.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. I mean, I know I relate to that. We started lifting originally to like get better at sports. That's kind of the gateway,
Yeah. So I tried to get better for sports, and all of a sudden I started getting abs, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And so a little bit of cockiness got there, and I had some good friends, of course, too. And so they knocked me off my pedestal so quick that by the time, I thought I was hot shit. We were at the river. I remember this specifically. This is like years later. This is like when I was 18 or 19, graduating from high school. They would give me so much shit. We were at the river. It's 95 degrees, floating in the river. And I'd pull my shirt off, and all my friends would be like, oh, Holt's taking off his shirt over there. Like, everybody watch that. I'm like, damn it. Like, whatever. And then you feel like, shit, should I put it back on or whatever? And it's not that, but I'm really thankful for that, because if they wouldn't have done that, you have people that they have the false sense of confidence where it's arrogance, and it turns people off for bodybuilding. It turns people off to want to improve. They think, just like it with success, you're like, man, the rich people are evil. Well, no, they're not. Like, some rich people are, but also some.
Same goes for other people too.
Right. Poor people are evil.
Right. I think the money is irrelevant. Kind of like the physique is like, it doesn't make your character. You know.
Mm-mm. Not at all, man. So it's just, it goes to the clarity, what you're looking for, the reason why, and to have a piece of that humble pie every time that you improve by staying humble. Like, I think one of the things that's helped me, like my friends like that, but trying to help other people, and that's what actually
for sure
I'm really passionate about. Like, in a sense, cliche, but if you're able to take what you learn about anything, I'm naturally a teacher anyway. I love to teach, right? And I feel like it gives my life more value. So if there's something I learn, there's something that I figure out, oh, this works, whether it's marketing or whether it's fitness or
you want
anything like
to
that.
Tell other people.
Yeah, you want to do that. And so that's why I started even posting on Instagram back then. It's like, I just like doing this, and oh, here's a cool way to do a workout. Here's a creative thing. Or here's a way to burn fat, that might be different or easier for you because it's easier to adhere to, right?
Different techniques, things like that. Yeah.
No, this is awesome. And I think we're hitting a lot of stuff. Is there anything particular you saw, kind of an overall arcing principle or thing that we've discussed from them that we haven't really covered?
Like I said, the planning, having the, the mindset. following some sort of nutritional protocol, right? I'm pretty sure everybody that listens to this podcast probably is somewhat cognizant of their nutrition. At least I would hope after listening to 15 episodes, you've got the picture, but that's important, right? It's huge. Other overlying themes, I mean, we're talking a lot about diet and exercise on this podcast. Sure. It's great. But, even in having my wife on, talking about having healthy relationships. Yeah. Not only with, your peers, your associates, your coworkers, your gym peers, right? Your teammates. Right. But also, fostering better relationships with your kids, fostering better relationships with your spouse. I think there's a lot with Casey that we could have talked about that we didn't necessarily touch on. Sure. But I didn't want to put her too much on the spot. Her first time in the hot seat, right?
Right. Maybe next time.
And and we should have her on again. But with relationship stuff, like it's just there's a lot of things that I feel go without saying with relationships that like the more people I talk to, I learn that are just like not the norm. You know what I mean? Like, not to be graphic, but you need to be banging each other like at least, 3 or 4 days a week, I'd say at a minimum. Now that's not out of a textbook, but like, right. I mean, you've got to be doing that kind of stuff.
Well, it's part of the relation, the love
right. And obviously Casey mentioned some of that, but, just things like that. And then, the making the time for each other, making time for your kids. And all this kind of boils back down to, your time management skills and things like that. So I think that's, probably with all the people we've talked to, especially the ones that are, the busier ones, which I would say is everybody that we've met with, they've got like a packed schedule. These are people that pack their schedules, right? Yeah. But they, all make the time to decompress. If you follow Chris Gethin on social media, you'll see that, shoot, man, that guy, he even mentioned it on the podcast, like how he's starting to love weekends and taking the time to go do all the things, right? The activities, but doing that kind of stuff, reserving time to hang with your kids and your spouse,
experience more of the world,
and balance. And my wife made a post on social media not too long ago for our anniversary. One of our friends was like, I need to learn this balance thing you guys talk about. And it's like, dude, nobody's got that perfectly figured out.
When you have a perfect teacher, come talk to me.
Yeah, I mean,
I would like
seriously,
to know that person.
Yeah, it's like, it's ridiculous. I think the main fight that my wife get in, and I wouldn't call it a fight, but the main thing that we, if she's ever, in a mood with me about, we'll call it. There you go. It's just, it has to do with time and how you're spending your time. If I spend too much time at work or whatever, right? So I think really, spending time on each and every relationship, and learning legitimately how to perfect your time management. Again, we talk about that with scheduling and with, all of the other things is like, and we shouldn't always be constantly figuring out how to fit more stuff in.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I like that.
I think I get caught up a lot with that. It's like, oh, how can I fit everything in? It's like, I think we should all be working towards fitting less stuff in, cutting more stuff out.
But it's not essentially cutting something out where there's just blank space. It's replacing it with something that's better.
Yes, exactly. Or being more efficient with something. Yeah, or you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like a lot of people, especially competitors, they struggle with having to get all of their cardio, all of their lifting, hit all of their macros, hit all of their steps, get enough sleep, and then they got to work a day job, and then they have kids, and then they might want to do something other than work out from time to time. Right?
Yeah, like a normal person.
So it's like the list goes on, right? So it's not how do we, stuff more things in. It's, how do we accomplish our goals while we're, maintaining healthy relationships and while we're, trying to work towards our more self-actualized self.
There we
right?
go. Yeah.
Anyway.
I like that a lot. No, that's amazing. And then, realizing that your mental health is just as important as the physical health.
Oh,
they
for
go
sure.
hand in hand, of course. I mean, they're literally just like this. But when you're not finding time to decompress, you're not finding time to spend with the people that you love the most, and you're just on the grind, as some people say all the time, then your mental side of it is going to go completely the other way.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
tough.
And I'm guilty of being the work hard, play hard type of guy.
Sure.
That's just kind of my personality. But I mean, I go hard during the week with, seeing clients, answering emails, doing business, you name it. But then, on the weekends, I'm very inclined to turn my phone off or leave it at home or just ignore it. Is what usually happens. And I'll go do some of the activities that, recharge me, and everybody, depending on their personality type, has different things that recharge them. But that is so important to do, is make sure that you're recharging yourself. Right. Some people nap to recharge. Some people exercise to recharge.
There you go.
Right.
Yep.
Some people, read, they do nothing to recharge. Right. I'm not a nothing recharge type of guy. That makes me want to hurt myself.
It goes the other, you're getting more charged.
It charges me. But horseback riding, mountain biking, things like that. You've got to find your things that recharge your batteries. So that's another thing that I want people to take away from, this first season of the Power of Lifting podcast. What fills up your cup, do more of that. If people fill up your cup, be around people more, be around like-minded people. If doing nothing fills your cup, find a way to do nothing a little bit more frequently.
Yeah.
My wife, she's she likes to, she's kind of a do nothing recharger. So laying at the beach or laying by the pool or, watching a mindless TV show that she's not even really watching. You know what I mean? It drives me crazy, but
she's got it.
You've got to understand that about either yourself or your significant other to understand how things need to go, right?
Sure.
So there's a little give, there's a little take, right?
I think that's very special. I think too, with the aspect that I think was also a little bit of a theme throughout this is finding what works for you. Where when we're talking about other fitness podcasts or podcasts in general or people's opinions, they come and be like, you got to do it this way because it worked for me. I promise it's going to work for you. And then just go. And it's just whoa, slow down. You find what works for you and you share it with others because other people, it could work for them as well.
Right.
But I really love that.
The one thing I will say is that the Mecca Gym way is the way to go.
It is the way.
It is the way.
I really like it.
But yeah, I mean, there's certain, we incorporate different methodologies and things like that. And it is certainly, valuable for people to focus on themselves and do their own research. Give your coach feedback, things like that.
Yeah.
That's how you get the best coaching, is to give good feedback.
Right.
Straight up.
And I think that to keep a good coach around, because if you go to a coach and be like, hey, I read this or I saw this, and they're like, no, and then get super insecure about it. It's like, do you want that person as a coach?
Yeah, I never quite understand those coaches that won't answer their clients' questions. It really just blows my mind, because literally everything that you do as a coach, you should have a reason for it. And if you don't have a reason for it, then you should be open to changing your ways or your methodology or whatever. Or you should be open to listening to what people have to say. But if you just do it that way because that's just the way it's been done for years and years and years, well then you should probably check yourself a little bit, right? Which unfortunately is the case for a lot of coaches. But you definitely want to be able to answer your clients' questions, I guess. Yeah.
That's great. Well, Eric, I think I mean, it was a phenomenal season. I know I had a blast. I think it was great.
I had a blast. I loved some of the listening recommendations. I love some of the reading recommendations. I still think that, you know, the You Can't Hurt Me, the Goggins book, is probably one at the top of the list. If you listen to this podcast and you haven't read that book, you need to. But there's a lot of great reads. If you look through the episodes of this season, there's some phenomenal books that have been recommended on, you know, motivation in particular. There's some great ones out there. You know, same thing with, you know, people's music choices. I really
it was cool to see the variety.
It's good variety. I think this is one of my favorite weekly activities, and I'm just super grateful that we have an audience that'll listen to us yap. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it brings up a good point to the audience that's listening / watching this. Like always, just like Coach Cafferty here, we want to hear you. What do you guys want to listen to? What do you guys don't really like? I mean, share your opinions.
Yep. No, totally. We're definitely open for suggestions on guests, and we're gonna keep this thing rolling. We got a great guest list planned. Lots of good information, lots of good. We are just getting rolling. I feel like we're just now starting to pick up some steam with our guest list. It's
really
just
exciting,
out of control.
It's fun to look at our insights on the podcast distribution website, which are just continuing to go up, and that's just really thankful to see that / hear that. Yeah. But also, I think we're rolling, and we're finding that people want to hear this stuff.
Yep, not going anywhere soon.
Not going anywhere soon. All right, everybody, we'll see you at the beginning of season 2.
Season 2. Episode 17 coming at you next week. Thank you for joining us on the Power of Lifting podcast. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. For more content like this, follow Eric Cafferty and the Mecca Gym on all social media platforms.